us on NewsX World. With that, viewers, we're shifting our focus towards what's transpiring in Europe. A NATO member, Poland, has now stated that it scrambled aircrafts to ensure the safety of its airspace after Russia launched airstrikes on Ukraine. Now, Ukraine, meanwhile, has reported that missiles and drones are raining down on the Lviv region near the Polish border. Poland's operational command, General Bronislaw, has stated that Polish and allied aircrafts are operating in the airspace while ground-based air defense and radar reconnaissance systems have been brought to the highest state of readiness. At the eastern flank, particularly members related to that, they're on high alert after Poland shot down suspected Russian drones in its airspace back in September, and frequent drone sightings and air incursions had also taken place in Romania and Lithuania as well, and Copenhagen and Munich. This has led to chaos in European aviation too. All right, viewers, with that, we shift our focus to more developments coming in. Bitcoin, the world's largest cryptocurrency by market value, has hit a record high and is up nearly 2.7% at $125,245 US. Bitcoin's previous record was USD 124,480 in mid-August. Now, this has been buoyed by friendlier regulations from US President Donald Trump's administration and strong demand from institutional investors. The cryptocurrency had risen earlier for an 8th straight session, bolstered by recent gains in US equities and inflows into Bitcoin exchange-traded funds. Meanwhile, surrounding the US government shutdown clouded the outlook and delayed key data releases such as payrolls, which are critical for gauging the economy's direction as well. With us on the broadcast is Dr. Ajay Dua, former Commerce Secretary of India, joining us. He's joining us from New Delhi. Thank you so much for taking out time and speaking to us on NewsX World. Given this rise that we're seeing in the value of Bitcoin, as this is taking place simultaneously as the US dollar is retreating, could we then see cryptocurrencies increasingly being viewed as alternatives to traditional fiat currencies, especially during periods of economic uncertainty such as the shutdown that we're witnessing in the United States at the moment?
Thank you for having me on your show. I'm not sure whether cryptocurrencies, particularly three of them, which are the popular ones, Bitcoin, Ethereum, and Solana, all of them have experienced, no doubt, increase in their prices between 2 and 3% in the last 1 week, particularly. Whether they are large enough in terms of quantity to be able to replace conventional currency is yet to be seen, because I say this because the dollar, the US dollar, apart from being the accepted currency in the US, is a reserve for most of the world still. And there, the acceptability of cryptocurrency, including Bitcoin, outside the US is not as high as it is there. So that's the answer to, or my take on the first point. The second is on why has it actually risen? It has risen largely because of data by a private company, a private survey, a monthly survey. You see, the US government has not been able to put out the official employment data because from 1st of October, the US administration is no longer operational because of the budget constraints. But the private data also pointed out what the US official data would have had it come out, that there has been a fall in the employment during the month of September in the US. So what is expected now? That if the economy is not doing well, that the US Fed can be expected to lower the interest rates, the policy rates next month, in the month of November when it meets. With that, interest rates falling, the investors are looking at saying that if the bonds, which is the main alternative investment in the US and a very largely accepted one, if the bond yields are going to come down, why not go in for getting higher yields? It's worthwhile going in for Bitcoin, other cryptocurrencies, as well as like equities. So you would see going forward that if the trend remains, irrespective of whether the US government is working or not, and the impact is going to be on what the Fed does. But as of today, the expectation is that the Fed, which has now started, otherwise so far it was sitting very tightly, saying that Mr. Powell was not willing to relent and reduce the interest rates. But now that he has agreed and he has effected 0.25 reduction only about 2 weeks ago, it is expected that an equal, if not a larger, lowering down of interest would come about next month. And that is why people are moving, investors are moving towards riskier. Cryptocurrency is certainly riskier than bonds, but and so are the equities, as we all know, that towards the move for the last 4 or 5 days, or 3 days for sure, since last Thursday, has been towards a greater demand for the riskier investments.
And speaking about the shutdown that we're seeing in the United States, employees are currently furloughed, salaries are not being handed out as well, crucial data is also not being released, and it's likely that consumption will also fall. And this is something that Secretary Bessent has also pointed towards, that the US economy might be dented because of the current shutdown that we are witnessing. As you pointed out, it's very likely that the Fed could reduce the interest rates, but to further mitigate the snowball effect, what else, what other measures could be taken?
I think the shutdown of the Fed, shutdown in the US administration, a prolonged one, is certainly not desirable. The US economy has, whether President Trump admits it or not, has been impacted by the tariffs, the high tariff walls which he has created. Who's going to be paying for it? At the end of the day, it is the US customer. If the US customer doesn't get paid, the workers do not get paid, the impact upon them is going to be adverse, and certainly you would see the demand coming down. To have Fed is trying to correct it by lowering the interest rates, saying if people want to borrow, yes, please, because you could, we have reduced the policy rates, the banks would give you money at cheaper rate. Banks and the affected, all the people who lend money, institutions who lend money in the US, but the impact is going to be there. And if it is combined with inflation, then it's a very, on one side, demand coming down. Second, the impact of the tariffs is making things costlier. It is a recession which is at a time of inflation, which is a very rare phenomena. And it is partly, absolutely you're right, because of the US administration closing down, salaries not getting paid. And this is the first time we are seeing that in the last 2 years. We have seen 3 such situations in the past when there was an expectation that because the budget has not been passed for some reason or the other, like there is a reason now this time, as well as the insurance costs, it didn't get down to actually the administration shutting down. The last moment, the leaders of the 2 parties would meet, the House leaders, and come out with a solution. This time, that's not happened. The US is actually facing a shutdown, experiencing a shutdown, for last 3 or 4 days, and the way President Trump seems nonchalant about it, he hasn't made any political move to get it resolved. Political move means he has to talk to the Democrat leaders, whether you like it or not, because they are in a large number in the House of Representatives, and the bill has to be passed by both the Congress, House of Reps, as well as the Senate.
Indeed, as you pointed out, Dr. Dua, it will be tough to see how the US plans to deal with this double whammy. I request you to stay on with us as we track further updates. We're now learning that members